Friday, Sunday Fun Day Feast continues 9 to noon, and Nebraska Cornhuskers basketball coach by day and noted howler by night, former sharpshooter for the Minnesota Timberwolves, Fred Hoiberg joins us now. You know, the last time the Timberwolves played in a Game 7 was 20 years and 2 days ago from today, and they beat the Sacramento Kings in a thriller at Target Center. Now, Fred didn't hit a shot, but he did grab 6 rebounds and played wonderful defense, and here he is. Fred, PA in charge, how have you been?
Good. How you guys say? It's an honor to be on your show, PA. Great talking to you, Charch. Good talking to you as well.
Awesome win last night, my brother. They beat the champs by 45. You probably, like most, didn't see that one coming, right?
Yeah, it was an unbelievable performance, and you know I've been so impressed with the defense. Obviously, with the Timberwolves being number one over the course of the season in defensive efficiency. And those first 2 games, it was an absolute clinic. And then, it looked like they got away from it a little bit, which, listen, obviously Denver with the firepower on that roster and the defending world champions, you knew they were going to make a charge in a big comeback. And they were unbelievable in those next 3 games. And then, I give the Wolves a lot of credit and the coaching staff for getting them ready. That is, when you lose 3 in a row, after winning those first couple, you get a little demoralized. And for those guys to bounce back with that type of effort was incredible. Now the challenge is to remain focused and get them, get them ready for what's going to be a crazy atmosphere in Denver. And, if you guys remember that run we made, we played that first series in Denver and won the first 2 games pretty handily, and then went into Denver and really got it handed to us in Game 3, and it's really one of the best atmospheres in the NBA. And then Sprewell was unbelievable in Game 4, and we ended up winning a close one. And then Carmelo didn't play Game 5, and we closed out the series. But that truly is an incredible environment. The experience of being the defending champions obviously will favor Denver, but if the Timberwolves can just find a way to go out there and have that same defensive energy, I watched a little bit of the game. We've got someone on a visit these last couple days, but I thought that Anthony Edwards' defense on Jamal Murray was absolutely phenomenal. And those guys, they're playing with a confidence and a swagger right now, but they need to get back down to earth after that 45-point win and find a way to go out there and give the best 48 minutes of the season.
We're talking to Nebraska coach Fred Hoiberg, former Timberwolves, Pride of Ames, Iowa. Mike Conley, you talk about experience. I think the difference between the way this offense executed with Mike Conley and without him in the previous game, Game 5, to me was really different. Can you talk about the experience that Mike Conley brings and how important that is for these clutch games down the stretch here?
Yeah, it's so important. And, with Denver pretty much getting the ball out of Anthony Edwards' hands, to have the experience in a guy that has made clutch shots over the course of his career. And you're 100% right, Charch. I did think, the difference on the offensive end yesterday was Mike Conley. And, he seems to be a calming force for that team. Somebody 37 years old, been through a ton of battles, been through some playoff wars. And, he just found a way to hit timely shots. Even when they were up, I think it was 32 in the third quarter, you always felt like Denver was going to make a run. And I think they got that thing down to 22. And then, if they go on a 6-0 run, you get that thing, down to 15 or 16. And now you're in trouble because of the experience of that Denver roster. But I thought Conley just made timely shot after timely shot. And obviously his ability to set up the offense, handle pressure, and it was great to see him back on the floor last night. Obviously, he'll be a huge key in that Game 7.
Hey, Fred, you played against Arvydas Sabonis. In what ways is Jokic similar?
Oh, it's a great question. Jokic, you can't speed him up. He is so patient. His passing ability, his ability to deliver the on-time, on-target pass, the simple play is such an underrated part of his game. And I think the best part of his game is his ability to pass the ball. And that was Sabonis. When he got the ball off the glass, and I played against Sabonis when he was in his mid-30s. When he was young, he was the best player on the planet. And he was one of the most. He and Yao were the two biggest human beings I have ever gone up against. I mean, you had Sean Bradley and Mirashan, but those two guys, just with their legs were like tree trunks, and you couldn't move them. And Sabonis, he had such an incredible ability. Even on his outlet passes, he would spin the outlet pass like your bowling ball, PA. You spin that ball.
Yeah, right.
He would spin the ball down the court on his outlet passes. And even at that age, after all the injuries that he sustained, he was still such an incredible player, back when I played against him in Portland.
All right, in that vein, with down memory lane we go to a player for the Timberwolves now, Fred. You played against Michael Jordan. Any similarities in Anthony Edwards' game you see at the ripe age of 22?
Well, you see the side-by-sides, the footwork, the fadeaways, the athleticism. The thing that's amazing to me about Anthony Edwards is at 22 years of age, what he is doing right now. And, it seems to be he has really emerged in that team. And I give that group credit, and I think it's really due to the coaching, is they've done such a good job with the chemistry on that team. And, you always see who's going to emerge as the leader, who's going to emerge as the go-to guy. And that's where I think Edwards has really grown in his ability. I think his maturity this year as well in what they accomplished. When you look back at the season, it always just sickens you. If they just win one more game, that game would be in Minneapolis tonight in Target Center. But what he has done, and to go out there and the swagger that he played with in that first round series against Phoenix, and going up against one of the greatest players of all time in Durant, and really just kind of having his way, and what he did in those first couple games and what he's done over the course of the season. I've just been so impressed with how he's really emerged with his leadership, his maturity, and the comparison to Jordan. I mean, obviously that happens in sport when you compare and you see some of those same moves, but obviously Jordan, I mean, he just had that killer mentality. The thing I always say about Michael is he'd rip your heart out. He didn't care. I mean, he would just find a way to go out there and will his team to a win. So, yes, as far as talent, you do see some of the same types of things that Michael could do, similarities with his game. And I hope he starts winning championships. There'd be nothing better for that city. Because I remember this, when we were playing in that series against Sacramento, especially that last game, that Game 7, I mean, the town really kind of shut down. And, it's great to see the Timberwolves back on this stage. And, listen, I'm happy for the players, the coaches. Tim Conley's a good friend of mine, Matt Lloyd, his assistant. But I'm happy for Jeff Muniche. And, he's been through, some real highs, but also some serious lows. Ethan Cass and Ryan Tankey, those guys that I was able to work with after I had the heart surgery and worked in the front office. So those are the guys that I'm really excited for. And, man, to be able to get through this one and get to that Western Conference Finals would be such a high for that city.
Wow, that's fantastic. This is Fred Hoiberg, Nebraska Cornhuskers basketball coach, obviously. But the last time the Timberwolves faced a Game 7 in the postseason, Fred was on the team. It was 20 years ago. He's also former vice president of basketball operations for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and we have a Game 7 on Sunday.
Jaden McDaniels, great on both ends of the court, and he was in games 1 and 2, and we think of Jaden as your defensive stopper. But, Fred, when those players can contribute offensively, it rounds out the offense so much. Your thoughts about that?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And that's the other thing that I would say that I've been really impressed with is how well this team has accepted the roles that have been given to them. And that's hard in today's, I don't care what level you're playing in. It's always you want to score the basketball, and that's where I've been again with with what Coach Finch and Mike and Nori stepping in there now after his injury. What they're doing with this team and buying into. I think it was McDaniels. I think he took 4 shots, I want to say, in Game 2, but he was the most valuable player on the floor because of what he did in hounding Jamal Murray all game long. And, Anderson as well. I just, those guys, they have really bought in to what they're doing, but you have to be able to step up and make shots, especially when you start double teaming Edwards or Cat or those guys. So your role players have to find a way to step up and make big, timely shots when your stars are getting doubled.
Hey, Freddie, that Game 7 you played in against Sacramento, do you won 83-80. Do you remember that Weber 3 that circled the rim at the buzzer for the tie only to pop out? It was so dramatic.
Oh, PA, I was standing right under the rim. It was an unbelievable play by Rick Adelman. They threw a cross-court pass, and Weber pump faked KG. KG jumped in about the third row. I think he jumped so high to block that shot. He sidestepped to his left and rose up, and it just looked perfect. I'm sitting in the basket saying, "Oh, you know what?"
Yeah.
And that thing hit every part of the rim and bounced out, and the ball ended up in my hands. That would have been my 7th rebound, PA, but it was after the horn.
Yes.
And, but it was just surreal. I mean, that thing looked like it was in slow motion going up and into the rim. The incredible thing about that game, and this happens in Game 7s, I mean, it was such a low possession game. And in an 83-80 slugfest, KG, in his most important game in a Timberwolves uniform, goes for 32 and 21. And he just carried the team on his back because he would get us there a lot of times, and then it was Sam Cassell that would hit the big shots, and then he'd run down, with his holding his, and
church bells.
Yep. So but the performance, and you look at the big three that game, if I'm not mistaken, KG goes for 32.
Yep.
Sam, I think, was in the 22 or 23, and then Sprewell had 14 or 15. And Wally came back. Wally was hurt for a lot of that year with his plantar fasciitis, and Wally hit some big ones. I think he had 10 that game. So, it was just an incredible game. Certainly I'll never forget. And then seeing KG jump up on the scorers table, flip, getting us ready for those series. It was something I'll never forget, but it really did. That possession seemed like it was in slow motion when that ball was in the air.
While we're talking about that playoff run, I'm still harboring some resentment about the refereeing. Tim Donaghy has since come out and said about all the things that they were instructed to do and how they were supposed to call that game. I'm still mad. Are you mad? Does it frustrate you at all?
Not really. I mean, we won the game, so I mean that to me, and I don't know. I mean, listen, he said that it didn't affect the way that he refereed. I don't remember there being any outrageous calls. I really don't. And again, the important thing is we found a way, to get through that one. And I'll say this: if Cassell stays healthy, I think there's a banner in Target Center right now. He was so good. I mean, being an all-star that year, he stayed healthy for the entire year, and then he hurt a muscle in his hip in that Game 7. And then I think he tried to play one game against the Lakers. And, you go into that series in the Western Conference Finals with Shaq and Kobe and Karl Malone and Gary Payton, and we still found a way to take him to 6 without Mariano Rivera out there, without our closer.
Yep. Yeah.
And, it was a really good series, but I honestly think, who knows, but I honestly think we win a world championship if Sam would have stayed healthy.
Does, Fred, does Denver give you the feel of a team that absolutely will be panic-free on Sunday? Kind of like, it's all good. We have no doubt we'll close at home.
Well, yeah, and when you're MVP, when the MVP of the league has the demeanor, I think that just goes down to everybody on that roster. And when you see Jokic, I mean, the things he does on the court, PA's got about the same athleticism. Hell, I think I could run with him right now, as old as I am, and he is so poised. And when your leader is like that, you got the crowd behind you and you got the championship experience, yes, I think there will be a calmness to that team. Now, if they would have been in the finals last year and lost in Game 7, yes, there would have been a lot of pressure on them, but I think they're going to go out there and play easy and play free. Now, the Timberwolves have to have that same mentality that, it's got to be, go out there and you got nothing to lose. You go out there, you're going to be the underdog. You're playing against the defending world champs. And I think that's what they've done. And I think there's going to be this is a confident team right now that I've seen. You just can't get caught up in the hype. And I think after Game 2, there was so much noise, and there was, people, when you watch the media and you looked at the social media, which I hate, by the way, but when you looked at all that, it was just there wasn't one bad thing being said about that team, and
right.
sometimes you get caught up in all that, and then you maybe have a little bit of a letdown. So they have to stay away from that. I'm sure Finch has talked to them about that, and all they have to do is go in there, have a great, crisp workout, get to Denver, and find a way to play their best 48 minutes of the season.
And in wrapping it up here, Fred, speaking of Chris Finch, have you ever been taken out on the sideline like Finch in that Phoenix series? Are you kidding me with that? Because you know it's eating him up that he can't fulfill his regular role.
Oh, it's got to be killing him. I've had somebody come out. I'd like to think I'm a little more athletic than Chris, so I think I maybe could have avoided the serious injury.
Yes, sir.
I got to be careful. After my second heart surgery, I had a valve replaced, and I used to stand in the middle of the court, and I got trucked one time. I absolutely got drilled by Robin Lopez running down the floor, and it was almost like I took I just could not get out of the way fast enough. But I got to be careful because I'm on blood thinners with my artificial heart valve.
Wow.
So I have a little different perspective now of finding a way to get out of the way, and I try to anticipate if somebody's coming at me, hell, I'm jumping over the bench.
Yeah, this is we're showing our age here. You have the blood thinners. I have gout. Church has hemorrhoids. All right. Final one here, Paulie.
I got 3 quickies for you. You're at Hickory Park Barbecue in Ames. What are you ordering? And is it the Saucy Southerner?
It's not the Saucy Southerner. I know. I think I know what goes into that meat that mystery meat that they put in there. So I'm not eating the Saucy Southerner. I'm going with the platter, the beef ribs, the pork ribs, and the brisket. That's my go-to when I go back to Hickory Park.
You have the rare Armenian basketball player Connor Esesian now on your team. I don't think there are any Armenians in Division I basketball right now. You've got the only one.
I'm excited about Connor. He, as a freshman, set the all-time record for threes as a freshman at Wisconsin. And we had a kid last year, Keisei Tominaga, who was one of the best shooters in college basketball a year ago. And he made 70, and put it into context, he made 75 threes a year ago. And Connor Esesian, as a freshman at Wisconsin, made 69. So he can really, really shoot the ball. He'll help for what we've lost. I'm excited about him. But yes, the guy that actually, and he used to work in Minnesota, Rex Kalamian, is coaching the Armenian national team.
Nice.
And I talked to Rex quite a bit about Connor. Connor's going to go play in a couple friendly games in L.A. In the middle to late June. But yeah, I'm really excited about Connor.
Fantastic. Last thing, Game 7. Who you got?
Oh man, I got to go Wolves.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about this time. It brings back so many, really some of the best memories of my life were in that series. And it was one of the last. I played one more year, and then unfortunately my career ended before I was ready. But that team that we had, here's what it was. If that game was within 2 possessions with under 5 minutes to play, we were winning that game. We were just going to find a way. And it just brings back all the great memories of that time and the friendships and, still talking to some of those teammates. And it's just fun to see. It's fun to see the Target Center rocking. And like I said, the guys that I was fortunate enough to work with, that I still talk to, again, those are the guys that I'm really, really happy for. And man, I hope we can close this one out. Get to that conference finals and keep it rolling and hopefully get that championship banner at Target Center.
And my man, congratulations on making the NCAA tournament with those Huskers. You're doing great work down there Lincoln Way. God bless you, my friend, and we'll catch up soon, okay?
Yeah, awesome talking to you guys. Thank you. Go
Thanks,
Wolves.
Fred.
See you, bud. Fred Hoiberg played for the Timberwolves the last time they were in a Game 7, which was 20 years and 2 days ago. Alan Horton, the radio voice for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Games heard here on KFAN. He joins us in studio next, but first, here's Nordo with that patented cash thing.
The Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest, so use the keyword BANK. At KFAN.com, you might win $1,000 and put it in the bank with the keyword bank at KFAN.com.
Fan. Jordan McLaughlin is going to dribble it out at midcourt. A 45-point victory in Game 6 to save off elimination. And the Timberwolves are headed to Sunday for their second ever Game 7. Final score, Timberwolves 115, Nuggets 70.
That is the voice of Alan Horton on the call with Jim Peterson last night from Target Center. Game 6 goes the way of the Wolves. They prove victorious by just 45 points over the world champions.
45.
And Alan is nice enough to join us in the 651 Carpets Plus studios. It's 10:26. Good morning to everybody. Your Timberwolves outscored Denver. Okay, Anthony Edwards, a game changer. And I'm sure you know this. You're an elite basketball mind. With Anthony Edwards in the game, the Minnesota Timberwolves outscored Denver 92-49.
Oh,
my
incredible.
man was a plus 43 in the game. What's up, Box?
How you doing, PA?
Good.
Church, good to see you guys. It was incredible. He rose to the occasion. And after 3 straight losses, to respond the way the Wolves did, I don't know if it was because their backs were against the wall, they were facing elimination, but they came out, they played with a desperation that they haven't played with in the last 3 games. And they flew around defensively, they flew around offensively, they increased the pace, they hit shots. It was fun to see outside of that 9-2 run to begin the game for Denver. Minnesota owned it the rest of the way.
Talk to me about the environment.
Yeah.
You've called, 1,000 games, something in that
Coming
ballpark?
up on 2, right?
2,000 games?
That's a good question. I honestly don't know. Somewhere in that 1 to 2 range.
Okay, so 1 or 2,000 games. What was this environment like compared to all the others you've been in, and where does this rank for the game last night?
It's got to be up there, and it's probably number 1 simply because you put in the circumstances of it being a second-round game, an elimination game. It was
free chicken sandwich.
Luka hits a 3. I mean, it kept getting better even after the Wolves. Even after Mike Malone throws in the towel, it got better when Luka hit the 3, and then the 2 missed free throws to give everybody chicken. That's the pinnacle, right? That's the checking off all the boxes, and the final one is get the free chicken. It was awesome, and I told you off the air, Charge. It's like, with the losses in games 3 and 4 were really tough on your home floor, to be up 2-0 and then lose both of those in front of your fans. And for the fans that were there for games 3 and 4 and game 6, I finally felt like they were able to release this emotion. It got the payoff. Once that 20-0 run happened after the 9-2 burst by Denver, it just kept building too, and it got better and better and louder, and just it was awesome. It was absolutely awesome.
I want to talk to you about a very specific matchup, and that's I want to talk about Ant versus Jamal Murray. I'll punctuate it with this stat. I'll lead you with this. Jamal Murray finished minus 32 for the game. Anthony Edwards plus 43.
Yeah.
And that's a direct head-to-head matchup on both ends of the floor frequently.
Yeah.
Your thoughts about that matchup in particular?
And especially coming off when those two kind of canceled each other out in game 5. Jamal Murray didn't play great, but he was a big part of slowing down Ant at the other end. But last night was a completely different story. Ant rose to the occasion, dominated that matchup. So you hold Murray in check, and Ant does what he did, plus 43. I mean, 27 points doesn't even sound like it does justice to the performance he had and how important it was. And Jamal Murray, what did he finish up shooting for the night? Because he had
4 for 18.
Okay, so he had
10 points.
He had a 3 for 18, which is a playoff career worst for him in game 2.
Right.
And then goes 4 for 18 in game 6. And in the first 2 games, you could clearly tell he was hobbled, right? The calf was bothering him. Then he miraculously recovers with the week off and between games 2 and 3. But last night, he did take some physical contact early, but boy, he looked healthy. It didn't look like the first 2 games. So it was a big time performance, but I think with this series has been so up and down and so topsy-turvy that I don't know how much we can draw from all the other games. You almost have to just throw all that stuff out the window, and it's now just a game 7.
So you're both way better at basketball history than I am, and I'm not ready to suggest this is all-time historic, but I can't remember a series that has had more lopsided wins.
Same.
So way lopsided wins both ways that have gone this deep. I mean, are we in uncharted territory here?
I think for Wolves fans, absolutely. I've never seen a series like this that I've actually cared about and watched every single game. There might have been some through the years that you just did, you kind of saw those final scores, or you realized, it went 7 games, didn't really realize how they got there.
Yeah.
But this is coming off the Phoenix series, I still didn't, even as well as they played against Phoenix, I didn't see a 2-0 start, winning twice in Denver and being as dominant as they were. I didn't see Denver responding and looking elite for 3 games, as if you could just shoo them in for their second straight title. And I hoped the Wolves would respond in game 6. I didn't foresee it. I didn't bank on it, but to see them come out and absolutely dominate, What does that leads me to so many questions about Game 7. Does Denver just move on from Game 6? Because that was an absolute beatdown. They couldn't get anything right. They scored 70 points.
Well, they think they can. I mean, we saw it in the Lakers series. We talked about it last time you were in here. Champions have push-button mentality. Now, whether when they push that button, Sunday or whatever time, what comes out of it, we will see, because sometimes you push that button, you got to push it again and push it again. And the way Michael Porter Jr. is playing and some personal life things through which he's going, I mean, that's just super sad. But back to Edwards just for a second. Is Anthony was so wonderful in his post-game press conference. And he's always a wonderful interview, and he's very open. But he was asked about his point total last night, and I think he shot 17 times. And Anthony was like, "I only shot that many times. I didn't come in here thinking I'm going to share."
Right.
Okay. So
he was surprised by his 4 assists. Right?
I didn't come in. Yeah, right. I didn't come in here as share first guy. So I'm sure I didn't have many assists. Then he looked at it. He goes, "Oh, I had 4. Okay, that wasn't bad."
Yeah.
Having Conley back, clearly, as Edwards put it, he was like, when we were down Mike, I felt I had to facilitate more in Game 5. So he was a little out of his element. Conley comes back, Edwards goes off. But the over-under on, and I'm going to lay a serious number here. And I don't know what the official number is, but you're in elite basketball mind. Tell me which way you would go on this. The over-under on Anthony Edwards shots Sunday. 26.5.
I think if the Wolves are going to win Game 7, I would go under.
Right.
Because I'd want that balance.
Yeah.
I want him making the right plays.
Yeah.
Now, if that means
Jaden's got to hit his threes. His corner threes, which he did last night after clanking one.
I mean, he saved his best for the last game, and we need one more of those. He totaled like 35 points the entire series, and he gets 21. He shoots 8 of 10.
Yes.
3 of 5 from deep. He was tremendous defensively. Couple of blocks, 3 deflections. You need the balance. When the Wolves are at their best, they've got that balance. And I think when Ant has gone for he's gone for 43, he's gone for 44 in this series. I think Denver has tried to shut him down. They trapped him a lot in Game 5, and the Wolves played that beautifully in Game 6. Mike was a big part of that. But also, the Wolves got back to doing what they did against Phoenix. Remember, Phoenix was doubling Ant all the time. You've got to move that ball quickly. And when you move it, you've got an advantage, right? It's 4-on-3, and you've got to be decisive about what you're doing. And we talked a lot about it on the broadcast last night. Jaden was exceptional in his decision-making. If you're going to pass it. If you're going to drive it, go. If you're going to shoot it, do it. And be confident in those. And all of the Wolves played very confidently around Ant when he did get doubled. And so I guess I would take the under in that because I think they're going to continue. I don't think they want to let Anthony Edwards beat them. So I would probably go under, but still 25 shot attempts, 20-25 is probably in the range where he's going to end up.
Predictably, Alan Horton at Wolves Radio. Fox. Playing very fast this morning. So if you had to choose between these, which would you prefer? Indy winning tonight and 7 o'clock Central on Sunday, or the Knicks closing Indy this evening and 2:30 Central on Sunday?
I have not come up with a feeling on that. What scares me a little bit is having an afternoon game that actually in Denver would start at 1:30, which means you're getting to the arena at like 11:30 or 11 in the morning. That is early. That is not what players are accustomed to.
Out of the routine.
Out of your routine, and it's kind of made Chris Finch and the staff come up with an interesting decision because they don't know the results obviously until tonight. They're going to leave this afternoon. Because if it is an afternoon game, you want to get in there. You don't want to fly in Saturday and then early. And so I kind of would love. I like the idea of an afternoon game. Yeah. I don't know. I could go either way. I'm not going to spend any.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter to me. Yeah. That's what I think I come down on.
Alan Horton, do the Wolves have the second best player in the series, third best player in the series, fourth best player in the series, and maybe the fifth best player in this series?
So beyond Jokic, do they have the next
four best players that through these 6 games?
Jokic, Edwards.
Yeah, Jokic, Edwards.
Right? Cat?
Everybody,
No.
Cat's been really solid. The foul.
He has.
Yeah.
He has.
And Murray fell off again.
Right.
Murray can be
And
great, and he can also be 4 of 18 and 3 of 18.
Has been steady to very. I might slide Gordon into that third.
Although
Gordon has had 2 really good games, and he's the 1-2, and last night he was totally invisible.
Right. And he finished with some decent numbers.
Yeah.
And there was a game, I think it might have been game 4, where he got in some foul difficulty and had to sit down. And that actually played, I think, well for Denver, because something about Gordon, when he obviously had the really big, I'm confusing all the games. He had the one really big game. And
Yeah,
it was
he
very
was
good.
phenomenal
20-something points and 10
Get all
rebounds,
those
5
threes.
assists.
But
But I think mostly his numbers you can kind of live with. It feels like those aren't as impactful as maybe a Jamal Murray or a Nikola Jokic. And so Gordon sometimes I think has those empty minutes. And that one game I was talking about where he got into foul difficulty, they went smaller, and that changed the complexion because you almost want Gordon on the floor so that Rudy can stay on Aaron Gordon. And that means Cat can guard Jokic.
Yeah.
And that's obviously a huge key for game 7 for me is you have to have maximize your possessions where Towns is guarding Jokic. The numbers have backed it up in this series. Over the last 2 years, he has had the best numbers against Jokic. Now, you're not going to shut him down, but you can slow him down. Cat's got to stay out of foul difficulty.
Yes, huge part
and
of it.
you've got to keep Gordon on the floor so Gobert can be roaming and help out behind Cat.
I'm going to take that as a yes in the second, third, and fourth best players.
So
Conley might need to slide into the bottom
Conley's
of that
in this
trifecta.
conversation,
so
right?
impactful.
Yes.
I mean, the
Yeah.
numbers don't blow you away, but that's not what Mike's game is. That's not where his value is.
Right.
It's a fascinating thought exercise.
Porter isn't in this conversation.
Nope.
Caldwell Pope's not in this conversation.
Again, one good game for KCP.
Right.
MPJ has had 2 20-point games, but has been quiet since. Jamal Murray's been up and down. Cat's been really good. He's been solid.
He has.
He's been solid. And the fouling is still an issue. You still get nervous with some of the turnovers, with some of the passing. But he's been, for the most part, pretty solid.
When you talked about Cat on Jokic, and it's a huge part of the outcome of this matchup. When last night, when they sent the ball into the paint with Jokic, normally he can beat you several different ways from there. But you can see the frustration. He's looking around. He's trying to make his shot. He's trying to back up Cat or maybe Rudy. And then he's passing it out and taking his chances with somebody else. And those guys weren't making shots. Sometimes the passes weren't good.
Yep.
I felt like we were able to frustrate Jokic in the paint in a way we hadn't seen in 3 straight games.
Yeah, I would agree. And you hope that continues in game 7, but Denver will have some sort of adjustment that they make. They'll start cutting more, and they'll play off those double teams a little bit better. But I think as long as the Wolves play with the same intensity and effort they did defensively, and once you double, you're basically flying around trying to match up, right? You got to have your rotations down. There were some great possessions defensively. As long as they keep that up, I think whatever adjustment Denver makes, it will at least. We won't see the Denver offense be what it was in games 3, 4, and 5, where they were, a 125 offensive rating, which just the Wolves can't compete with, and nobody can, because that's an elite level offense right there. And if they can knock that down a little bit, the magic number has always been 115 points per 100 possessions. When the Wolves keep their opponents under that, I mean, they win like 85% of their games this year.
Well, most teams probably would at that point.
But for the Wolves specifically, they don't win these high-scoring games. And that's been a problem over these last 3 games, is that it forces your offense to be perfect because you have to match up with what Jokic and Murray and those guys are doing.
Well, during those 3 games, you talked about the plus 125. Everybody was saying, or many people were saying, look, they can't. That's not sustainable. They had been shooting so well that there's going to be a regression to the mean. Now the regression came hard last night.
Yeah.
But also those 3 games, Nuggets just played at an unsustainable level.
It's really hard to maintain any sort of in the postseason. You're facing really good teams. It's hard to beat a team 4 times in a row. I think that's sort of a regression to the numbers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, their offense was great for 3 games, but to maintain it into a 4th and not think the team that you're playing is going to come back and have a good game of their own. That's what makes series so fun. It goes back and forth, and now we'll settle it on Sunday.
When in Ant's post game, first thing he said, Mike Conley. There's a difference.
Yeah.
The first thing he said, and we haven't really broken that down a lot. You want to talk about the veteran leadership, the way he runs this offense, how much more comfortable this offense looked with him on the floor last night than it did in game 5 when he was gone, and you're trying to patch in with Naw and others, trying to run this offense. It needs I need the ball in Mike's hands coming up the court a lot.
It's a great reminder of the value he brings, right? Because heading into Game 5, you're like, okay, well, Mike hasn't had a huge series numbers-wise. Maybe they can get Nickeil on the floor earlier. That's a better defensive lineup. Maybe it'll be okay. But then he's gone, and you see how it goes. And then he comes back in Game 6, and it's another refresher and a reminder of how important he is. He's just he's elite, and this is why you need point guards. This is why Phoenix struggled in that series. They didn't have a point guard to manage things, to calm things down, to make right decisions that don't always show up in a box score.
And that's why if the Wolves can advance to the Western Conference Finals, no matter who they face, well, there are 3 of them that are as good, if not better, than any you will face in Doncic, Irving, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So we'll preview Game 7 with Alan Horton, the Timberwolves' longtime radio vox. And again, the Sunday game, Game 7, the life changer against the Nuggets on a Sunday fun day, will either be at 2:30 p.m. or 7, depending on what happens this evening between the Knicks and the Pacers. This is the Friday Front Court Feast on KFAN. 9 to noon continues, and Timberwolves Radio Vox Alan Horton is in studio with us at Wolves Radio. If you would like to follow him via the tweet machine, as 9 to noon does. And as many know from over the course of the years, in patented fashion, mad producer Eric Nordquist puts together a musical montage when we celebrate or we have countenances of chagrin. This happens to be that of celebration. It's an old school song by a band called The Babies, because the Timberwolves are back on their feet again.
Timberwolves on the 7-0 burst. Towns thought about a 3, puts on the deck, drives in and slams it through with the right hand.
9-0 run for Minnesota. Last 4 possessions for Denver. 0 for 3 and a turnover.
Up top to Towns. He'll take a rumble into the lane. Lobs it for Rudy, who throws it down with 2 hands. The onslaught continues. Kyle Anderson to the corner. Here's Edwards against Jokic. Faked him out, freed himself with a 3 and carried it. Anthony Edwards, 3 of 5 from long range, 19 first half points. The Wolves are up by 22, their largest lead of the game.
And to that guy right now. The Wolves.
You homer!
Out to Nasri, he'll hoist an ankle 3, in and out, no. Jaden tip follow, at the buzzer, count it, baby! Corner McDaniels, Jaden on the attack, on the baseline, rises up, and jams it! Now to the corner, James wide open, 3 ball, yes! Big time game by Jaden McDaniels.
I mean, pick your poison with that defense.
Big boy's back.
The Denver turnover. And the Wolves on the move, right side in. Donovan stop and pop 3, dribbles in. Look out, he slams it for 2. Anthony Edwards up to 21 points. The lead up to 24. Timeout, Denver. Jordan McLaughlin is going to dribble it out in midcourt. A 45-point victory in Game 6 to save off elimination. And the Timberwolves are headed to Sunday for their second ever Game 7.
Did you really tell the locker room staffer in Denver you were going to be back?
Hell yeah. They know I was in there. Yeah, I told them. I said, I'll see y'all for Game 7. Yeah.
Well done. Well done. I got to get a copy of that.
Alan Horton and
It's your
Nordo.
voice, not mine.
Well done.
Nicely done. Mixed in with the music. It's a perfect song choice.
Well done with that montage. Well done with the calls last night by Ed Wolves Radio. And to the left of Ed Wolves Radio is Dave Handelin. He is a Super Stats Dave, the statistician for the Vox for home games and selected road games. And he kicks off the talkback portion of this Friday, Sunday Fun Day feast.
What's up, guys? It's Statsy from Bloomington on a glorious Friday morning. What a weekend do we have in front of us. Saturday we've got, and they're racing at Canterbury Park. I hear the tip sheet whales. Check that out. Sunday, we are going to howl in Jimmy K's garage. What a party it will be. Wolves in 7. Howl! Bye.
Thank you, Statsy.
Yeah, nicely done.
Wolves in 7, he says, boys.
Boy, he's got some energy this morning, doesn't he?
Jokic, the defensive, now, like I said this earlier with Chad Greenway and yesterday, Micah Nori was interviewed on TV, like in the second quarter, one of those TNT sneaky little side bits. And the Nuggets were beginning to open up at this time. And Nori, who's fantastic and super open, was like, it's a pick your poison thing, paraphrasing here, and made it sound like, they opted to be like, we know Nicola's going to get his, but his facilitating gets everybody's confidence up. Everybody just gets going. So we're going to try to take that away. But then guys were hitting shots. It flipped last night. I mean, the bodies that were flying at him, specifically when he got down by the baseline, man, they just really, really hindered him. They'll try it again Sunday, and he will initiate his offense in different ways and markedly more aggressive Sunday, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. I think the Wolves just were frantic in guarding him, and I don't want to say he looked flustered, but he looked like, whoa, this is a different level of defense than we've seen the last 3 games. I'm not used to this. And you're right, so many of the highlights from Game 5 were of Jokic backing down Gobert or Towns or Naz Reid, and nobody else was in sight, right? That's because they were all guarding their guys on the perimeter. They could live with Jokic scoring. What they couldn't live with was the 13 assists, which led to 30 more points. So Jokic had 40, and he assisted on 30 more points. That's a huge number.
That's an MVP night.
That's an MVP. And he had 1 assist for a long, long time. Chart, you got the box score. What did Jokic? 2 the whole game?
I mean, think about that.
Well, yeah, but that was so super key during the season. And like when I brought it up with Finch early in the season after a Denver game, Jokic had a 0 assist game against the Wolves. He had a 0 and a 2. And it's clear that they were messing with his passing and the fluidity of the offense through his passing during the season. But then he had that MVP-like game. But it flipped last night, man.
Yeah, and in the regular season, he only averaged 4.3 assists per game against the Wolves, speaking to your point. That's the lowest he's had against any team this year.
Be, yeah.
Lowest against any team this year, lowest against any team in the last 3 years. You have to go back 4 seasons to find a number of games that he's played against an opponent when he's averaged that few of assists. You want to dare him to do something he really doesn't want to do. He is a pass-first big man. He's always said it, right? Passing makes 2 people happy. Scoring makes 1 person happy. It's a very simple statement, but he believes in it, and he plays like it, right?
Yeah.
He would much rather set up his teammates. He'd rather find Gordon in the dunker spot on an alley-oop. He'd find Porter Jr. in the corner, give it to Jamal up top and set a good screen for him. He'd much rather do that, and when you try to make him one-dimensional, he clearly can score because he had 40, and he got better and better in those games 3, 4, and 5. But you can't let him do both. He couldn't do both last night. He couldn't do either, really. Nobody could for the Nuggets.
Right.
Alan Horton, I'm going to hit you with 4 records from last night. You can just give me a quick hitters on these. You ready?
Yes.
Wolves are the first team to ever have 2 different 22-point scoring runs in playoff history.
It's amazing. That's amazing. It's and one of those was in the 4th when most of the guys on the floor were not playing in the regular part of the series. So
Luka Garza time.
Yeah, Jordan McLaughlin and guys, Josh Minot, Wendell Moore Jr., all those guys coming in.
In the first quarter, they outscored the Nuggets 20-0. In the fourth quarter, it was 24-0.
Yep.
Biggest playoff loss for a defending champion in NBA playoff history.
45
points. What at one point was 49 points.
See, I don't think Alan likes hearing these accolades, and here's why. Because, like, after the first 2 games, Lance Jordan, they're going to sweep. The champs have no chance. All of the accolades with all these kids on social media, and got Kendrick Perkins saying, I know what a championship team looks like, and this is it.
Yeah.
Greatest defensive game in the history of the postseason, game 2. It's those accolades. I mean, human nature, if it gets to win 2, it might have gone to the head a little bit.
Yeah, and the bottom line is you got the win. And very easily, when Denver threw in the towel. They could have gone on a 20-0 run and made the score a little bit different. It could have been a 20-point game, and it kind of eliminates some of that. But it's the bottom line. It was a definitive statement by the Wolves with their backs against the wall to come out and hold them to 70 points. I mean, they held them to 80 in game 2, I guess it was.
19% from 3 for the Nuggets.
Yeah, you know what?
Damn.
When you look at the regular season and postseason, the Wolves have played the Nuggets 10 times. This will be the 20th meeting coming up in the last 2 years on Sunday. 20th meeting in the last 2 years. So talk about being familiar with an opponent.
Yeah.
But in the regular season this year, in those 10 meetings, 5 times the Wolves have held Denver under 100 points.
That's amazing.
I mean, that speaks to something. Like, you can point to some things in the regular season, second of a back-to-back, one team's without one player, one team's without another. But bottom line is the Wolves, when they win, they're defending, and they're holding Denver under 100 points. They hold them under 40%. And that three-point shooting, when they do that, they're really good, too. I think it's 4 times now they've held them to 30% or less. So when the Wolves win, they're doing really good things defensively.
All right, record number 3 for you.
Yeah.
Just take it wherever you want. Wolves set a team playoff record with 66 rebounds in a game.
What was awesome,
That's an
unbelievable number. And what was awesome to see was Nas, Rudy, and Kat all have double-figure rebounds, like almost by halftime. Like it was unbelievable the way the Wolves used their size, their length, and they haven't been a terrific rebounding team this year, which is surprising with their size and their length. But boy, did they dominate the glass last night.
And it always has been with Gobert, with the beloved Stifle. It always has been surprising to me just how mediocre he is as an offensive rebounder. That's more so from a total standpoint. But then if you watch the games like Game 5, I mean, he had his hands on about 7 of them, and they just clanked off.
Yep.
Last night, he only had 2. He was a much more willing participant around the basket and trying to get tip backs and offensive rebounds. I was really impressed with Rudy's tenacity last night.
And I don't know how many blocks he finished with, but there were at least 4, 5, 6 different times Nuggets got into the paint, looked at him, and turned out and went out to the perimeter.
It looked like that bit when he was free safety under the basket in Denver where you and Jim Pete were, where it was the weirdest optical ever. They would let a guy streak down the key uncovered, like what? And then there's Rudy to change the shots.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Yep. It's that's what makes him so great, and that doesn't show up in the box score. You have to really dig to find that when he's on the floor, the opponent takes less shots at the rim, which is those are high efficient shots. Those are shots that teams and offenses covet. And when he's there, well, then you can guard out on the 3-point line. And when you're covering the 3 and covering the rim, guess what? You get the number 1 defense in the NBA.
All right, final record for you, 4th out of 4. Ants plus 43. Highest playoff plus minus for any player his age in team history. 3rd highest playoff plus minus for any player his age history of NBA playoffs since they started tracking plus minus.
When did they start tracking plus minus?
I'm not clear on that.
It's one of those weird, like 80. No, this is probably 95, 96.
Probably 90s.
A lot of the records go to like 96, 97 because that's when they started.
Well, it's when fantasy started.
Yes, and
you think we don't care?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we care about that stuff.
Right, and the league really started investing in their NBA.com/stats, which is incredible. It really dives deep in all that stuff. And the Wolves, I think they finished. We saw a stat late in the game come across on a text was the Wolves. I think the 45-point margin is the 2nd largest in NBA history from a team facing elimination. So coming up with a big win when you need it the most, only topped by the 1956 Lakers versus the Hawks, which I think dates the Lakers to Minneapolis, and I think puts the Hawks like in maybe St. Louis. Yeah. I don't know. That's a that's before
maybe
my
Winnipeg.
time. The old Winnipeg Hawks in 1956.
Yeah.
Still got a jersey.
Yeah.
In NBA history, 7-game series that have gone 2-3-1, and so this exact format that the Wolves are in has happened 13 times.
Yeah.
10 of the 13 times, the team that won Game 6 won Game 7.
Oh my God! Does that take into account the home road thing? Are we on par with that?
No, I'm par with this. So this is
it is.
So this will be a road team. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So you got not only do you have to do the 2-3-1, you have to do it in the home road sequencing.
So you're saying the road team has won?
The road team has won Game 7 10 out of 13 times that it's gone this way.
Whoa.
Yeah. Put that one in your back pocket.
Makes you feel
Superstat
good.
Dave.
Yeah.
Makes you feel good.
My
Yes.
man, travel
13.
safely. And
Appreciate you guys.
Call a big one on Sunday.
That's
I know
gonna
you
be fun.
will.
It's gonna be fun.
Alan Horton at Wolves Radio, the radio play-by-play voice for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and he'll be on KFAN on Sunday. Parker Fox, a power forward with Ben Johnson's team by day and noted howler by night. He'll be analyzing Wolves basketball with us next.